to talk to you guys about architecture. Ever since I've started learning how to draw, architecture was a big interest for me. And I think buildings have always symbolized different meanings for me. If I see a dilapidated building or an old cathedral or just a simple house, I often think of a story and I think about what that means and what it symbolizes, and I'll often feel a really deep emotional feeling and connection to different buildings that I see. So I was down to my last page in my sketchbook, and there's a new building that's been erected in my town maybe over the last 6 months or so that has a really unique, interesting modern design and interesting textures, and so I was really drawn to it, and so I decided to go out and paint it in the last page of my sketchbook. So here's what that looked like. Hope you enjoy. I'm really attracted to this scene out in front of me with the building. I really like the reflections of the sky and the other buildings on it, and I'm also really attracted to this scene where the sun is shining towards me, so the buildings are silhouetted, which is kind of a no-no in plein air painting, but I kind of want to go for it. I really like that effect, and it's kind of a cool thing to try, so we're going to try it out. This view is kind of in a one-point perspective, and sometimes artists will use dots and lines to really get the perspective lines right, but I'm really just kind of eyeballing it and following the lines of the sidewalk and the lines of the buildings, and if you trace those lines, they eventually converge at what's called a vanishing point. But I'm kind of just eyeballing it and kind of going for a quick sketch here. Well, I really enjoyed doing this painting. It was really fun. I probably did it in about 30 minutes, so it was pretty quick and dirty, but it was really a blast to do it, and I really enjoyed kind of looking at these buildings and watching the sunset as I painted, so I hope you guys liked it too. If you're an artist, I want to challenge you to find a building that evokes something in you, an emotion, or tells a story, and see if you can lean into that story and tell the emotional story of the building through your drawing or painting. Architecture is kind of interesting because it's an art in of itself, but it's also utilitarian. And so, like all art forms, it tells the story of humanity. There are buildings that represent grandeur. There are buildings that represent power. There are buildings that just simply represent normal, everyday occurrences. And I think that those stories are interesting to explore through art. But architecture has also been the subject of music, from pieces like Sunken Cathedral by Claude Debussy to modern pieces like Red House by Jimi Hendrix or The Hotel Yorba by the White Stripes. So I want to challenge you, if you're a musician, to write a song about a building. Write a song about the house you grew up in, or a building that's evocative for you, and tell the story of that house. Tell a human story through music about a building. And if you don't want to write a song, just simply pick up your instrument and improvise, thinking about the feelings and the emotions that are conjured by a building that you're thinking of. You can use music to creatively integrate with a building or an architectural design that evokes something within you. And maybe if you don't consider yourself an artist or a musician, I think that you can still be creative with the buildings that are around us. The great American novelist Jack Kerouac used to do sketches, not drawing, but just using words to describe scenes that he saw around him. So I want to challenge you, draw a picture or do music, but even just take 10 minutes out of your day and try to write down and describe the buildings that are around you. Or think about a building that you see and write a poem about it, or tell a story of who lives in that building, or when was that building built, or when will that building crumble? What's the story of that building? What's the story you can tell and use your imagination. I believe everybody has a creative voice, whether you're doing art or music or simply using your imagination. I want to challenge you to use your creative voice for good this week. Stay creative, and I'll see you next time.